Okay, so we are going to learn how to transfer our animal drawings onto metal and make our metal relief animals. We're doing this because we're inspired by the Viking metal brooches. And so as you can see, as part of my drawing, I've made sure to include my animal, and then I've decided that I'm going to cut my brooch out to be a circle shape. I've used my two patterns, one on my animal and then one in the water. If you're feeling stuck on what patterns to use, you can always look up patterns from nature or think of a pattern from your imagination. So I have my details ready and my drawing is ready to go. I've drawn my animal big enough so that it should show up in the metal when I go to transfer it. So I'm going to put my drawing aside. I'm going to need to make sure that I grab a piece of felt. Some pieces of felt are small, so you might need to grab two. This one's big, so I can fold it over. You want to make sure your piece of felt is 2 pieces thick. And that's going to help us transfer our design. Our goal is to make a metal transfer that's something like this. This one's not totally done, but you can kind of get the idea that we're going to be printing our image onto the metal. So once I have my felt laid down, I'm going to grab a new piece of metal that's the same size as my paper. I've cut out the metal to be the same size as your sheets. You're going to decide if you want to do the gold or bronze side or the silver side. Either one is totally fine. I'm going to make mine on the gold side. So I'm going to lay it gold side up, and then I'm going to lay my drawing right over it. The next thing I want to make sure that I have is a pencil that's not too sharp, a pretty dull pencil, and I want to make sure that I have a popsicle stick so that those are ready to go. If you want, you can also grab a couple small pieces of masking tape at the front of the room and just lay down some masking tape so that your pieces don't move around while you're transferring your drawing. Then I'm going to take my dull pencil and I'm going to go over all of my lines that I've made, pressing down, not super hard, not hard enough that I'm going to go through the paper, but hard enough that my design is going to indent to the metal. I want to make sure that I go over all parts of my design. Go over these ripples in the water. Go over my outline. And then when I want to check my design, I'm going to lift up one side of the paper, make sure I've gotten everything. I almost got everything. I didn't get the X's and the I's of the fish, so I'm going to go back in there, do that. I also didn't get this bottom ripple right there. All right, so now my design's pretty well transferred. I'm going to pull it off. And now I want to make sure that my design is more 3D than it is right now. So what I can do is take my pencil and I'm just going to gently go back and forth, press back in these lines. Make sure you can really see them. And then I'm going to flip over my metal and I'm going to make the parts that are in between the lines stand out and come forward a little bit. So I'm going to flip it over to the other side. I'm going to press all of the parts that aren't the line forward. So I'll take the round part of my popsicle stick and lay it so it's almost flat. I don't want to use the point of it like this. I want to kind of hold it pretty flat to the paper, and I'm just going to gently press out using the round part of the popsicle stick to push my bear forward in between the lines. That way he becomes more 3D on the other side. And if I keep my popsicle stick almost flat, I shouldn't make any lines while I'm doing this. I'll be able to just sort of push it forward. I'm going to push forward his arm, his shoulders. I'm going to push forward his belly. I'm careful not to go over the lines because I don't want to pop those the other way from when I put those in. So now when I flip it back, you can see that the bear is a little bit more puffy, but I've kind of lost some of the details from his face. So if I push forward his face a little bit more again, kind of even it out, I can use my finger to help push it forward too. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to want to make sure that I redraw his face so I don't totally lose it. Once I've done that, I've dented in his face, and I'm just going to gently turn it over again, kind of pop it forward, but without pushing back out those lines. So now his face is three-dimensional or sculptured, but you can still see the details in his face. I'm going to want to make sure I go with the pattern on his belly the same way, pushing those in again. Now it's all dented. So I'm going to push it forward and just gently use my finger to push forward even with the designs on there. So once I've done that to my whole drawing, I'm going to take my time going back and forth, kind of making it look more 3D so that it pops out, but you can still see details. Then I'll be ready to trim it down. And you can take a pair of scissors, cut out your shape. You can decide to leave it as a square if you like, or maybe just round out the edges. You can really pick any shape that you like to the outside of your design. Something you can get creative with. Try something different. So once my brooch is done, I would want to take time to sort of puff out my fish and the water behind it. But once that is done, I'm going to do a technique where I add black paint so that it'll really bring out the details. I'll rub it in and do some antiquing. We're not going to do that today. We'll do that tomorrow in class. But once your drawing is ready to go, you're going to grab a piece of metal. You're going to grab a piece of felt and your popsicle stick and pencil, and then scissors if you need them. So get started and make sure that you tape down your piece if you need to.